technology, for joining us in the show. Niche 360, if you don't know yet, is really a show where we're trying to showcase entrepreneurs, leaders who what I call 360 conscious. They want to make contributions beyond just money and strategic business planning. So we're really excited about digging deeper into the person and who you are and how you became. So thanks for having you on the show. I'm really excited. I think people are going to benefit.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so excited. I feel like we've done this a few times, so this is around 2 million. So just to kick off, I was wondering, could you maybe share what probably first attracted me to you, of your brand, the School of Magnificence, and how that brand come up, and how did you start that journey to get to the place where you are?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I do believe we all have magnificence within us. One of my favorite stories is the story of the Golden Buddha. And it was about a very small village in Tibet. And what actually happened, the enemies were coming to invade this small village. And they had this massive statue of a Golden Buddha, and they knew this would be destroyed because of the war. So the villagers came together and decided what we're going to do is to cover it with mud and moss and whatever ugly thing we can, so that the enemy won't have a need to take it down. When a war happened, the war continued for weeks and months, and it became years. And a generation passed, and people forgot about the Golden Buddha. Then one day, a small young boy happened to be playing by, and he went close to the statue of the Golden Buddha and noticed some of the stuff around it, the clutter had fallen off, the mud. And he noticed, whoa, the Buddha was golden. So he runs back to the village and he tells everybody, guys, the Buddha is golden. So they came down and, removed all these layers that was on top, and voila, there stood the Golden Buddha. Wow. And I've always felt everybody has that gold within them.
That's a beautiful story. I've never heard it before. How did you come across that story?
On my transformation journey, on my hero's journey.
Wow. So you mentioned this aspect of the Golden Buddha and how that led you to the connection with your brand and the School of Magnificence. But how did you word it? How did you come up with School of Magnificence versus Magnificence, again, in which you are? So I mean, you could have gone any way with that.
Because what I felt personally then is that our ideas are inspired, and leaders know that. Sometimes you just get that hunch. Sometimes it's a feeling, it's a gut. Actually, when I started, I used to call it something like finding the gold within. And it is, I believe every leader goes through a journey of self-awareness. It's that journey, even Lot 360 that you do with your leadership people, is getting to know yourself. And as you start going deeper and deeper, you start changing. And even your brand starts to change. And within time, I was like, wow, all this I've been doing all this time is to find my magnificence. This is what I've been trying, my sense of identity and the true self within. Knowing yourself. And when you get close, and you go like, oh, we are magnificent. That is the truth.
Wow. So maybe tell us a little bit about this hero's journey. You mentioned that word hero's journey. What does that actually mean to you, and what parts of this make you match I've heard of the hero's journey, I use the term, but what is hero's journey mean to you, and how has your life examples matched that journey so far up to this point?
So every person on some certain level always feels that I am meant to be somebody. I am meant to do something. Why am I here? There are all these questions we all ask. And when we start going through this journey within ourselves, well, the moment you start asking the question, one of my favorite quotes was by Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss and the universe will open doors where there were only walls, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things I learned on my speaking journey, where I never knew I had speaking abilities, or I didn't know I had abilities to really move masses. like just by being on stage and move people and inspire people. And now I help people do the same thing. And that journey to find my voice, to find my message, it actually started with me going like, I have a message to share and I don't know how to share it. And I don't even know sometimes what the message is, but I feel I have a message. And through that process, what actually happened, one of the best, it was a prayer actually a kahuna gave me. And it was, dear God within me, please place me in my sweet spot. And when you keep asking for where's my sweet spot now, from where I am right now, this is my next sweet spot. What's my next step? What's my next step? Then you end up finding there is a journey to you. And Paulo Coelho's Alchemist, which I would recommend for people to read, you exactly. You end up realizing that journey you had been on, you were only looking for yourself. Because within you is all these dormant abilities you may not even know you have. You have all this strength you may not even have tapped into. And all these add up to your magnificence. And so for me, it actually started with the speaking journey.
Okay.
How do I share my voice with the world? And the best leaders are speakers.
And I think the audience would be curious to hear. So before you decided to even listen to that journey voice, what was your past life like? How different was it to what you're doing now?
I was an electrical engineer.
Still don't believe that. Say that again. Wow. Yeah, go ahead.
And when I was working as an electrical engineer, I came to realize the importance of communication. You know, you're working with people, you have to communicate with the managers at the top. This is the risks, this is what could happen. And if you don't communicate, people could lose their lives. You know what I mean? These are facilities that you have to always manage the risk. Then you have to communicate with your team members. And then sometimes you also have to speak up. And out of that, I was like, oh, wow, speaking is such a powerful skill. When it comes to either working with others or whether in your position of leadership. And most of the time, I used to be in leadership of a group of 10 electricians. And they used to call me Optimus Prime.
Why is that?
The leader of the pack, and we're fixing transformers.
I love it. I'm a nerd. I like this stuff. And I'm a big fan of Transformers. You got a big fan from here on. Optimus Prime with Transformers. That's so clever. And I think it's clever, but that's great. Good stuff. Wow. So communication, what is communication, and what advice would you give your past self? Because I'm sure there's so many people coming from academic professions that may be saying focus on your studies but not focusing on communication, for example. So what advice would you give someone who maybe isn't even aware that communication is valuable, that now you know having this voice has really made a difference for you? What advice would you give your past self in this area of what you know now?
The first thing I would remind my past self is that communication is not taught in university. Were you taught communication in university? That's it. So until when you're in the real world is when you realize these are soft skills that you need to develop one way or another. And communication, from my perspective, comes in two bits. There's the speaking aspect, and the second aspect is the listening, which is, for me, it's the most important and key. Our abilities to listen. Because when we listen to others, we help them draw out, we draw out their best selves. People are able to put up their strengths. Even as a leader who listens will bring out the best out of others, will bring out the magnificence out of others. So people forget that communication is about speaking, but most importantly, listen.
So how do you listen?
2 ears, one mouth, in that ratio.
Yeah. So, there's dialogues, and this is going to be juicy, but there's dialogues, as you talked about leaders, and, this channel is all about putting the conversations of leadership back into the responsibilities of being a business owner to your staff, for example, and on and on. But people go, yeah, no, I heard you, versus I'm really listening. What would you say are the differences, and how would one person build better listening skills versus just listening with the ears without really listening?
For me, when it comes to listening, It's all about being able to connect with others fully. Personally, I'm a big Ubuntu advocate. For those who do not know the Ubuntu, the
Yes,
African
tell us.
philosophy of Ubuntu
Yeah.
is a philosophy that we are defined. First, let me tell you the story behind it.
I didn't want to interrupt. I'd love to hear the story. And so the audience. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's this anthropologist who happened to be in Africa, and he saw these kids playing around, and he thought, oh, let me give them a challenge. He got a basket of fruits and put it under a tree and told them, if you run and the first one who gets there gets the whole basket of fruits. And so the kids got together and whispered, and then they agreed to hold hands together, run, and share the fruits. And the anthropologist was so fascinated, and he said, why did you do that? I mean, somebody could just have won that and have that all to themselves. And it's what the children said. They say, no, it's Ubuntu. How can one person be happy if the rest are sad? And so from an African perspective, yes, I believe so too. From an African perspective, it's I am because we are. Ubuntu is the definition. It's like we are defined by the kindness and the compassion we show towards others. And when there's no place you start and I end, there's no other. It's just me. I am because we are. You have to be able to have that audacity to put yourself in somebody else's shoe.
That's powerful. So how does that connect to, I can see the connection, but how does that connect to the ability to listen to others?
Listen. Another part I love about Ubuntu is a core value, right? Especially when it comes to servant leadership. And servant leadership, as you know, it's all about being a leader who is in service, Someone Sinek says the best leaders eat last, that kind of a thing.
Oh, I like that.
So what we're looking, if you want to be the leader who serves, you want to bring out the best out of others, then you have to be willing to see the magnificence in others and that strength that they have to bring it out of them, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. So yeah, go on.
And because only then when we allow other people to shine, bringing out the best as a leader, bringing out the best, bringing out the magnificence in others, only then is our own magnificence reflected back. So our ability to connect with others and realizing that Ubuntu as a core value, it takes the way you treat other people into consideration. We hear, oh, I'm a leader full of integrity. You ask a leader, what are your core values? They'll tell you integrity. Think of other core values.
Trust, honesty, put it on a plaque somewhere on the wall. Yeah.
Exactly. But which of those core values include how you treat other people?
I love that.
That's why Ubuntu is important, because now that's how you treat others.
How did you, I mean, we're both from Africa, so I am speaking more on the collective. How did you come to first learn that word, embody that word, and can you give some examples of how that was reinforced through your life growing up in Africa, perhaps, or Australia, wherever you learned it?
We had it in Kenya. We just didn't call it that. The whole of Africa.
Got it from the Zambians, but that's okay. We passed it.
It's okay. I don't think it's.
Just kidding. Yeah. We're part of the Bantu. That's good.
Yeah, it was part of the Bantu.
I just had to go there.
Yes. There's a really interesting story of how, I don't know, because I spent a lot of time with my grandmother growing up. And
me too. We're gonna have that conversation soon. Yeah.
Yes, and I don't know if the thing you took out most from your childhood is to know how to treat other people. Like when I actually look back, like, no, you can't say this about people. This is how you treat your brother. I've always known where the red line is. For example, if I'm playing with my kid brother and I push him too hard and he starts crying, then my grandmother would say, Kageni, that's no longer play. That's where you draw that red line. So when you grow like that and you start understanding where the boundary is to harming others or hurting other people, and when you're living in harmony with other people, because that defines you and the kind of a person you are. And I remember one of my favorite sayings. She never used to repeat herself. She was such a magnificent woman. She'd say, I speak to the child who listens. I speak to the child who listens. That's how powerful it is. Because which is the child who doesn't listen always gets lost.
Whoa. Translate.
Yeah, if you don't listen to the wisdom, if you don't listen to others, you don't even, because you know everything, you'll always get lost. So that's the kind of upbringing I had, as you're saying. So for me, that is how it impacted me. And so a lot of my values, a lot of my personal values really come from my ancestry and through my grandmother.
Oh, that's beautiful. So speaking of your ancestry, please tell us a little bit more about why you're dressed the way you are. What's the message? Or what are you trying to communicate back to listening and communication? What are you trying to communicate with your traditional attire at the moment?
Your sense of identity. I think for me as a woman of color and as an African woman and as a Black woman, my culture is part of my identity. It's part of my magnificence. And even when I go to work, when I've done my speaking competition, even when I did my world champion of public speaking, I won a dress thing like this.
Wow.
And this is an international audience. Because you're representing yourself, you're representing your message, you're there standing in your magnificence, not wanting to be like other people, but it's because it's about also the message. And when was this? Yes, and that's when I went to go to represent New South Wales in Chicago. And I placed, yes, and I was a semi-finalist in the World Championship of Public Speaking in 2018 and placed top 20. And there are 30,000 people who entered the competition.
Wow.
And by the end of the competition, I was the top speaker in Australia, New Zealand, and Papua New Guinea, or representing this region.
Wow. Wow.
So I really do believe part of who you are, even as a speaker, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, this is also part of your branding. And it's also part of the magnificence you bring in, because it's part of who you are.
Wow. So what does the head part mean, and why, I'm Bemba and we have similar colors to the Kenyan, but it is part of your tribe within Kenya, or it is the Kenyan identity? Could you give us some details on why this is unique to you?
Your crown has already been bought and paid for. Wear it.
And the bracelets and the neck chain, why 1, not 2, 3, 7? Come on, give us the details.
What I can tell you about this one, it's bravery. These are the values of the ancestors: bravery and strength. That is the red and the black. Bravery, strength, hospitality towards others, peace with yourself. Every color has a meaning and every pattern has a meaning. And always walk tall as if you have 100,000 ancestors behind you.
Which we prayed about, and we do. I love that. So connected to, you have a crown and it's been bought for you. Could you maybe expand on your project? Because you mentioned something really beautiful in our last connection that I took away, was how you're empowering the women in Africa and also bringing the craftsmanship to international markets. How did that story come up, and can you maybe expand on how people can support?
I believe that a lot of, especially women in Africa, a lot of them just need financial empowerment. That is the most scary question I ask women is, if you had the money, would you leave this situation you are in? Because when a woman is not empowered, and that's why I really want the magnificent woman to rise. When a woman is not empowered, then she may make choices that are disempowering to her. She may have to stay in an abusive marriage, for example. She may not have the choice to take her children to school if the husband doesn't want the children to go to school. And so what we have found, economically empowering women and giving them a voice, that's why it all comes back to speaking, giving them a voice to share even their own stories. That is what is going to change it especially for the women who are considered second-class citizens around the world.
That's really powerful, and I loved how you shared that story, because I met and I know a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you do, that are becoming financially or economically empowered, tend to not remember where they're from. Not just in Africa, I'm talking in general, of a subclass, and try and make a difference. So why do you think that happens? Is it because they haven't had a grandmother like yours to teach them Ubuntu, or haven't met a coach like you to facilitate the perspective? Why do you think a lot of people, once they get to financial economic stability, don't recall that they have maybe an obligation or responsibility or an opportunity to make a difference in other people's lives?
I think we are all different, but first let me tell you an interesting story. My grandmother did not go to a formal school. You know, her era was different, and back then women were not really going to school as per se. And my mother went to school and finished at high school. I've always said that was my mother's university degree, and so she never went back.
I love that.
And then there's me. By the time I was doing my university, it was I need to break that in my family. I had to be the first woman to have the university degree and change it for my entire lineage and our descendants to come, God willing, down the line. So I think we all have that responsibility. And anyway, just looking back, I don't know if I've answered your question, but just looking back into this, when it comes to empowering women, first we have that responsibility ourselves, and then we'd be able to support other women. But not every woman who has that opportunity, who had that opportunity I had to even go to school. So they will be maybe having different kind of opportunities, or maybe they don't even have the choices presented to them.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I think I like what you said, like it's different for different people. So speaking of you uniquely and all the accomplishments that you've achieved up to this point, including finding your voice, what are you most proud of that you've accomplished and mastered lately?
What I'm actually the one I have accomplished, like it's done, it's not in the back burner, is
in the to-do bucket.
Yes, is the Speak with Confidence online bootcamp. Where I have
Tell us.
For leaders and entrepreneurs. And this one, I co-founded this with my hubby, and he's been the, what do you call this? He's been the international director for the world's largest speaking and leadership organization. So he's brought his expertise there, and I've brought my magnificence into it. And somewhere in there, we have created the Speak with Confidence online bootcamp.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's a 6-week process where they get a workbook and do lots of exercises and an assessment, and they learn all the different speaking skills they need along the way.
I like that. I like that. And we'll talk more about that project. And obviously, as I said, we'll put some links together and whatever you feel will be a good next step for some people to access you. So we'll cover that. So in terms of what you've accomplished, but what would you say are the skills then that you've mastered over the years that help you become the successful person that you are today?
Definitely speaking skills, entrepreneurial skills, sales and marketing. That has been quite an interesting journey.
Why you say that?
Because without sales and marketing, you cannot have a business run without sales and marketing. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when we start our journey, we really don't know the importance of sales and marketing until you're in it. If I was to start it over again, I would start mastering sales and marketing before I even get on the journey.
Why did you think people don't focus on sales and marketing initially when they start their business? What do you think the barriers are there?
I seriously, the reason why sales and marketing, for me, most people start with branding. You start with the back end work, and then only when you start running the business, you start realizing, I just need to master sales. I need to master marketing. I need to do all this other thing. But it's not just the thing that you think that's the first step I should go train on if I really want to get into business. I feel it's the bloodline. It is the bloodline, and it is very much linked to the cash flow that comes into a business.
And how important is cash flow? This is something as a business coach we talk about, to a point where some people think you're demonizing the passion of the skill that the person is. So what's been your experience or journey with that?
The bloodline of a business is like sales and marketing. And for me, when I look at it from that perspective, then that would be the heartbeat. The cash flow would be the heart. Without it, then there's nothing circulating within the business. The business has to invest into itself. There's so much coming out. Sometimes you need to outsource certain things. You need tools. You need to automate systems. And part of the Magnificence school has a business aspect of it, which is the business school by Magnificence school. And that's all just to take people through it on a more step-by-step basis.
So what are the steps just off the top of your head that maybe someone interested might get an idea of what to expect in terms of some step-by-step processes that you take them through?
Getting clear on branding, niching, who's my ideal client? And because without knowing who your ideal client, then you're just throwing it out there to the wind. Then after that, I help people also learn how to take their expertise, because I tend to work with a lot of coaches, experts, authors, speakers, and healers. How do I turn that into an online course? So that I can share with more people. And then there's a speaking aspect, because if you have to do videos online, if you have to do things like podcasts, right now people have social media platforms, you need to really have mastered your speaking. There's a whole module on marketing, another one on sales. I completely believe you are the business and you are the brand. So we have one for just your own personal transformation. And automation, just how do you create that? Having a strategy system. You've got, how many products do you have? Do you have one for high-end clients? Do you have one that for people who may not have the budget as yet? And in the end, one of the other things I truly believe is webinars. For me, I found them to be the most converting tool when it comes to training. So we also train them how they can use it as a tool to convert clients.
Great, for lead gen and stuff like that. No, that's really good. We'll expand on that later. So just obviously with all these accomplishments, chasing magnificence or pursuing it or expanding into magnificence more and more, the gold, the Buddha. What challenges did you face in the past that you feel you've overcome? And then what challenges do you still feel you're working on currently, if any?
Fear of failure.
Oh, tell us about that.
Oh, fear of failure holds you back. It held me back so much that I was so unwilling to try and put myself out there. Like, you've already talked yourself out of it before even you before even you try. So like, how do you know? And how I had to break that is just to face it. And doing the world champion of public speaking helped me, because I had to do it. And I had to compete against 6 different levels and meet a different audience and just give it my all. And that's all I had to do. And just not to care. Like, don't care what other people think. You owe it to yourself to do it the best. So, but in terms of what am I still working on? Which self-limiting beliefs? Is that the question?
What, like what exactly?
I still have some fears I'm still working on, especially around the sales speed. You know, whereby it's one thing when you can sell a $5,000 program. It's another one when you have to sell $100,000 program. So I'm still working on my muscles, but at least I'm in the process, and I'm tapping my way. I like using things like tapping and different modalities to work myself up.
And show us your stick. What's that stick, and do you use that to tap yourself as well?
You want to see my authority stick?
Yes, we want to see. What is that? What's the story with that? And do you use that for tapping as well? Or?
No, you don't use this one for. This is for authority. I don't. You were telling me about your culture.
Yeah.
You know the way the men carry the authority stick. The chief.
Yeah. I have one. Unfortunately or fortunately, I do have one.
Oh, yes.
Not with me, though. So tell us about that stick and what does it mean to our culture? Because this Cape to Cairo, north to south, everybody identifies with
that. Okay.
Without giving away too much of my identity in this conversation.
It's freedom to be your true self. It's our divine birthright to live in freedom and to express that which we are, to express our true magnificence as individualized pieces of God walking on earth. That's what our ancestors knew.
So why is it a stick, and why do you have one? It could be a flower, a ring. What's the symbolism of the stick from your experience?
The stick is a post. And a post always reminds you are an individual. And only, many sticks together become strong, like a really big, strong sticks. And only when we are true in our individual selves can we find strength in unity. Freedom and unity are best friends. So you have to look at it from those perspectives. You cannot have unity without freedom.
I like that. I really like that. And I think in today's times, some of the conversations around the tag words, justice, equality, I feel like you're really unpacking the meanings behind the intentions, the root virtues that maybe we tend to overlook in the interest of buzzwords. So I really love that you said that. And I'm fascinated by you as a person and how you show up here. So do you have characteristics or behaviors that in the past maybe didn't align with these words that you're using? And how did you change those so that you can impact people in a more aligned way that you're doing through your words?
Oh, definitely. But what I would just like to say about that is transformation is a journey from our former selves to the version we want to be, the better version. And I'm also working to be the better version from where I am right now. And the question I always ask myself is, Kageni, is this serving your magnificence? And if the answer is no, then I do know I need to change something.
Okay, so what have you had to change in your behavior that you used to do in the past that you know now doesn't serve you anymore?
Procrastinating. I used to procrastinate a lot in the past. That's just one of the things.
Yeah.
I think I'll have. Yes.
Okay.
And you start realizing such things don't serve you. And one of my golden rules is to show up 100%. Whatever little opportunity I get, just show up. This is just something you start learning. And how I carry myself, how I am, it's provided I'm in that state of peace and I know I'm aligned with my values, then I really don't care too much of other people's opinions, because in myself, I've learned where my strength comes from.
That's powerful. So let's talk about how you show up with other people, because this is an interesting challenge I've had to face, but I love to share and expose and maybe ask questions because I'm curious about your journey. How challenging is it for you to show up in your intimate relationships as you're building with your business and your brand? And if so, how does that show up and how do you overcome it?
Expand on that.
Yeah, so for example, a lot of us, when we're building our businesses, particularly in the first 3 years of validation, it's a baby, it's a newborn baby, at least in my experience, and it just craps and eats food, and the food is the money, right? So you're just tending to it, and when it sleeps, that's when you sleep, but chances are you're not sleeping. So a lot of priorities kind of, at least for me in my journey, got totally haywire as I was trying to, one, get out of the job mindset of 9 to 5 and get into the entrepreneurial mindset of productivity versus activity. And we'll touch on that later, but that's been my experience. So, but once the business got older and told me what it needed, I could then have more flexibility to align my life in a way that was a little bit more sustainable. But I found the intimate relationships I had, particularly with my, at that time, partner, and also some of my friends and family, really got compromised. So that was a big challenge for me growing up in the business. So what was it like for you, and if you overcame that, or what was your journey? Is it common? You also work with entrepreneurs and leaders, and how have you overcome that in your own personal life?
Oh, thank you for that. That's a good question.
I would have one for you.
I first did the transformation before I got on the journey. So for me, I knew balance had to be the key thing I was looking for. And also, because you also have to make sure you don't burn out. I'm the kind of a person who likes to learn from other people as well. I had to see who'd gone before the road before me. And there's a really big, good book called Thrive by Arianna Huffington.
Yes, Huffington. Yeah, really love that book. Yeah.
Yeah, where she's really warning women about burning out, especially when you start running a business. So I was borrowing leads from these kinds of people. And personally, I just had to learn to find balance. And as you know, as I mentioned, I co-found, of course, as you know, somebody I am with. And that really helps because we are working on the same thing. We both have, he does high performance coaching for men and I do School of Magnificence, but we also do Speak with Confidence together and leadership together and things like Keynote. So I think that really helped to find that kind of balance. I know different people look at it differently, but it's just the choice I made for myself because I knew the path I wanted to embark on. But with that said, he also knew I was not ready for children yet because, those are things I had to learn. Like, if you really want to go on this journey, Kageni, having a baby now, you'll have 3 babies. You're balancing at the same time.
Yeah, 2 babies and very, very, it's a huge one. Huge one. So definitely. Speaking of which, you're mentioning your husband's is the partner you're talking about, yes?
Yes.
Good. So what are the characteristics or skills that you're most proud of that he has, that you admire in him, that has helped your business grow?
So apart from speaking, he's a great public speaker and he's got great leadership skills and abilities. But for me, it's the softer skills he has in a man. And that for me is gentleness and humility that has given me almost like, how can you call it? A grounding that I needed. A grounding that I needed in myself in a personal relationship setting. Because when I work with a lot of women and who are entrepreneurs, one of the things we realize is you need a supportive partner in business.
Why is that?
Because every queen needs a king, That's it. It's like every king needs his queen. It's just in its own way. In its own way, yes. It's because when our personal relationships don't work, they will affect the business.
Yes, yes, definitely. I wanted to expand on that. And this is where the
Yeah.
whole 360 concept for me became
It
at
has
its
to be
highest
holistic.
vibration. Yes, yeah,
It has
fantastic.
to be holistic.
So now that you know this, or did you always know this? And do you work with some people who just maybe chase the money and neglect the family or neglect the health, or and how do you think that shows up in the bank account? Because people go, well, bad business is about the numbers, but how do you
Yeah.
think that directly ties back in?
When we teach in business school with the Magnificence School, we also have one of the other branches of it is on coaching and transformation. And one of the things we learned with that is everything comes at a price. Whether you pay it the right way or in the wrong way, you will still pay it. What I'm trying to get at is that if you're continuing working and burning out, you're going to blow a fuse. And the money you will spend in the hospital is still the money that you could be putting in your business.
Sour. Yes, 100%. Almost
Yeah.
to the cent. Not even. I believe it's to the cent, but I'll say almost just for speculative
I
reason.
always,
You can quantify it. Yeah.
you
Go on.
can quantify it. So when you start understanding there's a way things work in a certain way, and you start realizing we don't get away with anything. You know, if I'm working all the time and I'm not taking time to go exercise, I'm not taking time to eat healthy, I'm not taking time to spend with my kids, I'm not taking time to spend with my loved ones, then that way starts to impact us on some certain level. And I always tell my clients, it's like having a saw on your leg, and once you see a problem, fix it while it's still easy to fix. Going on with it until it becomes a bigger problem, that's what costs us more down the line.
And on the same note, what do you think if I spoke to your husband, he would say about what makes you magnificent to him as a partner in life?
You mean in terms of what he's told me, that I give him so much help?
No, the part that you think he would say if I had him interview and I'd ask him the same question I asked you, you answered it comfortably. So I'm assuming he would because he has experiences of what makes you magnificent. Yeah. Not the things you're working on together. We'll get to that, but just what makes you magnificent, or what, and that's a mirror
I
of
think
what you think you bring to the table.
I think you'll have to interview him and then he'll tell you. But one of the things he said ever since he met me, he said I helped him become more spiritually connected and spiritually aligned.
What do
So
you mean
and
by
and
that?
I think I think that's for me was the highest compliment. He feels more connected in terms of being clear with his purpose and what he wants to do.
And what does he want to do, and how does that align with your mission?
First of all, he likes the idea of being able to help in Africa. And so
That helps.
that helps. And for example, even the last time when we went to Kenya, we were running Speak with Confidence workshops together there. Yeah, for entrepreneurs and business professionals in Nairobi.
Yeah.
So he believes, and I do too, that great leaders will build Africa. I mean, Africa needs great leaders, and we cannot have great leaders without having great speakers. So that's how both our purposes came together.
Fantastic. So, is there anything that you feel you believed about yourself in the past that was holding you back from your success? And if so, what was that story? And then what is the new story that you have of Kageni now?
I believed I wasn't good enough.
And what do you mean?
I felt that maybe I didn't have anything to offer, or I didn't know what I was meant to offer. Or I felt I couldn't be myself. And this mainly was aggravated after I worked, of course, in engineering, where engineering is very, as you know, very logic. Everything is systematic. Everything has to be very direct. And as you can see from my personality, I would stand out like a sunflower in the engineering world.
I like that analogy. You are a sunflower for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just sometimes things like, being smiley, people can think that you are not serious, or just I have a very different way of looking at life. I have a very different aura, of this positivity, which is you're always looking as if you're high on something. But it's what my name means, by the way. Kageni. Kageni just means who I am, my mannerism and who I am.
Wow, that's powerful.
And so it was when you're working in a place that doesn't understand that is your essence, and that's the magnificence you bring, then you feel you need to tone that down. You need to tone yourself. You need to dull your lights. And I remember when a friend of mine said to me, Kageni, you've lost your spark. She just said, you lost your spark. I was like, oh, I knew this is a really high price I'm paying if I don't listen to what my inner voice is telling me to do. But in a long story short, such things make us second question ourselves. I had started second guessing myself. I had started feeling very critical towards myself. And then sometimes you start realizing that maybe if everyone is seeing me like that, maybe I am that. You know what I mean? But so you start losing the true self, and my sense of identity of who I am, who I was so messed up. And then with time, after I really just had to take that time to heal, first to heal, but the second thing is to just go on that transformation inner journey to say, okay, Kageni, which of this is true? Which of this can you use to learn? But most importantly, what can you do to be better? Because right now I feel I can handle it. How do you speak in a boardroom meeting when everybody thinks you've got nothing to say? You know what I mean? But now I have the voice to speak, and that's why speaking is so important. I didn't have a voice.
Yeah.
But now having that voice, you're able to say, no, this is my point. This is the point.
No, I love this. So this is really interesting because even with the audience, there's a lot of people about to start this journey. There's a lot of people who've made, as you said, in different words, make too many compromises to a point where they've lost their essence. What advice would you have for your past self, knowing what you know about you now, which would be very useful for other people at the journey where you were in the past?
So what I will say to my other self is have a process, be it a spiritual process, be it like something like a meditation, visualizations are really powerful. And even right now, I help my clients with visualization exercises. Find ways to affirm. Let the weak say, I am strong. You really have to affirm yourself. Because if you think
We're doing
you're
a
weak,
church business after this, no doubt in my mind.
What?
We're starting a church business after this, no doubt in my mind.
There is. That's it. Exactly. Taking sides. Yeah, exactly. Amen. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
You really need to find something that stops you up. So I really believe in that, and having that affirmation. And for the longest time, I've been saying that I am magnificent. I am magnificent. I am magnificent. It's one of the most powerful affirmations you can ever use on yourself, especially in a mirror. And I used it even when I was doing the World Championship of Public Speaking, and it even changes the way you walk on stage. Because and then the Invictus poem. I am the captain of my soul. I am the master of the fate. I am the master of my fate. And when you're coming from there, right, find me unbowed. And in Swahili we say sitingiki, siteketei, I don't burn. I am unputdownable.
Yeah,
You start
unbreakable.
realizing you have to program yourself in positivity, because the world won't do that for you. Find me unbowed. I won't be shaken. I won't be shaken. And it's just what you say to yourself. Does not mean the wind won't blow, but it means your roots will be strong enough for you not to be uprooted.
No, I really love that. And so, who outside your amazing husband are the greatest inspirations to you, and your grandmother you've mentioned as well? So, who are the people maybe that come to mind that really helped shape you to become the leader that you are today?
My mother. I don't know any woman who's such a prayer warrior. As I mentioned, I may have mentioned to you, I was adopted when I was young. My mother had to give me up. And the best gift she ever gave me was to pray for me every single day. When I later reconnected with her, she's like, Kageni, I never went to sleep without ever praying for you.
Wow. How did that make you feel when you heard that from her, when you reconnected?
I was so humbled, and I thought there was no better way for me to feel more love from my mother than to know every night before she went to bed, she always thought of me. Because sometimes you tend to think that maybe she forgot about me. But no, I was part and parcel. And to be honest, I felt most of my doors and blessings were because of her unrelentless faith that someday I may become who she knew I was destined to become, the magnificent woman.
Just a few final questions here, because I think we're going to have a few sessions together. With your permission, of course. I'm really deeply honored for this connection. And, yeah, we've got a lot to say. But what would you say you're working on at the moment that you're really excited about, that's bringing you alive, that you want people to know about? And how do they reach you?
Yep.
What platforms are best for that?
So Speak with Confidence, the 6-week online boot camp, and it takes you through the 6 main things people need to know when they speak, and we take them through the art of public speaking, the art of speaking in itself. And through that, we have to understand, how do we overcome nerves, for example. As a leader, you'll always have nerves, but do you let your nerves control you? And how can you control your nerves? All right, so we take you through how, and we share techniques and tools. The other thing is connecting with your audience. And when you connect with your audience, whether it's through eye contact, just from the moment you get on stage, it's really different when you have to speak to a group of 100, or maybe you have your team. It's during COVID, you need to motivate your team. How do you connect with them in a way they feel, we know, what we are going through? Some people have had to lay off staff. How do you communicate that and connect to your staff? Then the other thing is confidence when you're speaking. For you to speak with authority and to influence and to inspire as a leader, you need to have confidence. And confidence comes from a lot of preparation. Know your audience. Who are you talking to? Speak their language, speak to them, because it's never about you. It's always about them. And then the next thing we also talk about, we teach you how to use your voice. People do not know that you even need to warm up your voice before you go speak. You warm up before you go to the gym.
Very true, very true. I lost a voice once on a big speaking circuit, and there was exercises that you could do to prevent that. So could you maybe expand a little bit on this? Because some people have no idea this is a muscle, yeah? Could you expand?
Speaking,
I didn't. Yeah. I learned a very expensive way, and I lost a whole gig. So long story there.
Okay. Yes. So one of the first ones I use, the easiest one, is just to hum. Just hum. Just take a song and do the Amazing Grace. Do your favorite song. Huh?
Doing music albums on top of the church. Now I know.
Exactly. So that's the second way. That's how we get income, extra income.
Sorry, humming. Yeah. Just
okay. So we've got the voice. So things like voice, gravitas, and because we've co-founded this with Charlie, then he also helps men how to tap into that gravitas in their voice, to be able to command with authority and with power. And even as a woman, you want to sound credible. You want people to believe you. And then the next thing we teach you is body language, gestures, and stage movement, and how to have a stance. One of the things we say is nobody takes you seriously when you're the valley girl. If you go speaking like this and like to a whole board, you lose it. So how do you carry yourself? so to speak. And so that was the fifth thing, which is that. And we also show you ways of exercising your speaking muscles and things you should always have in your speaker's tool bag to structure your speech, hook your audience, and always leave them with a message. And for us, we call that the doggy bag. Never leave your audience without a doggy bag to take away home with the takeaway message.
I love that. Love that. So how do we best connect with you? Are you more on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter? What's the best one? Which handle do you use the most where people can maybe reach out after this, ask you more questions, and see if they can access you?
LinkedIn. And if
That's
they
how we
just
met,
look,
huh? Well,
yes,
Second
we
Life,
did.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Second Life. Yes. LinkedIn, and my website is www.schoolofmagnificence.com. And out of that is also www.speakwithconfidenceworkshops.com for the speaking. And you can see everything that we do.
Sorry, that's great. No, we'll definitely do that, and I'll put some links in the comments in the channel. And as you know, we've expanded. We're in Nairobi as well, doing some stuff there, and I'd love to maybe you could share a message of anything you are working on in Africa if once this COVID thing moves on. But is there any messages you might have for your fellow Kenyan people and what they should expect from you maybe in the next 3 to 10 years?
Next, how many years?
3 to 10 years. To the decade. What should we expect next interview when I'm like, hey, remember me, and you're a sage with a bigger stick and we're having a conversation? What should the African continent expect from you so we can eternalize it here? Then I can say, you see, I told you. I was the first to ask her that question. Yeah.
Okay. At the moment, I'm just completing the Magnificent Woman book. So we will be launching that for the Magnificent Woman. And running more live workshops. And that is we want to run a leadership summit in Nairobi at Ole Sereni. And this will be, as you're saying, the voice for the future and for entrepreneurs and leaders in Africa. And School of Magnificence for personal development. That will be online as well, like membership. So I think that is what we are looking forward to, and have a really big online presence. The videos and things like that.
Yeah, it's powerful. No, that's really powerful. Just a couple of last further questions here. So before I ask them, I just wanted to acknowledge you for really stepping up and showing your magnificence by, coming up and showing up 100%. I don't know what happened before this video, after this video, but ever since I connected with you, and that felt like a lifetime ago, but it was only a few days ago, actually, compelled to reach you. There's just been this vibrance and brightness, and so much of your light has come through in ways that I feel the world really needs to feel more authentic. And you're really one of those people to me that comes across very authentically, and we got straight to business really quickly. So I just wanted to acknowledge you that if this is how you're showing up with your audience, your clients, entrepreneurs, your partner, your family, your friends, deeply, deeply grateful for the gift that you are in this life. And I just wanted to say we see your greatness and your magnificence, and no better person to have a school of magnificence than you. So thank you very much for showing up in this life in the way you do.
Thank you, Aaron.
It's been rich. It's been rich. So last final questions, second last.
Please be kind. Be kind on that, the last one.
No, I'm leaving you with a doggy bag, as per usual. I'm following your I'm a good student. I'm taking notes here.
Okay.
So the second last question is really interesting one, but I've been asking, and it's really something I also picked up from another amazing interviewer, but it really hit home for me. It's like, we're all going to pass on to another life, but just imagine that time comes and all your online videos, your books, everything, just for whatever reason disappears and it cannot be shared or passed on. What are the 3 truths that you would really love, if you had a couple of seconds to write down, that you would share with the world, that you want them to remember you by? What would they be?
That you are magnificent, that you were born magnificent, and that we all carry the light and the love of the Creator within us.
Snap. I love it. Love it. Okay, final question. What's your definition of entrepreneurial success?
to be able to contribute our magnificence in the world and leave a mark and a legacy.
Yeah, it's been amazing and exactly what I thought it would be times 10. So thank you so much for showing up. I really look forward. So we're going to put your show notes in the show notes, comments, websites, links, even to your programs. And just wanted to say, keep doing what you're doing and really, really appreciate the time you spent here. And we definitely will have you back on the show for sure to speak more about the way you teach, which I think is very fascinating.
Thank you.